We're just gonna start recording. So this show is about this girl who goes through really challenging time in her childhood and in her adulthood, and now in the times that she's living, where like women are not allowed to play chess against men, type of thing, right? And she goes on this journey to win because she doesn't see it. What is this? International call. You like this, eh? The ringtone. I love it. Only if it had words.
Like never answer the phone because the music is too good.
You should hear the one that rings when my husband calls me.
Oh, I've heard that. Is it still the same one?
Yeah.
Too sexy.
Yeah, too sexy for my cat. And it plays in the store, and people like look at me. I'm like, yeah, hi, honey. Oh, but it always puts me in a good mood. That's why I like certain ringtones that I put on vibrate, so it doesn't do that again. That's why I like certain ringtones and noises that put me in the right mood.
Yeah.
In a happy mood. But anyway, so the show is really about woman empowerment as opposed to it's a chess game or a chess show or a show about playing chess. That's not what it's about. It's about, at least for me, about a woman that goes through this journey, and she has the blinders on, right? She knows what she wants and she goes after it. She does not get intimidated by men. She does not get intimidated by other women. She does not get intimidated by anyone. She is solely focused on herself. And what I learned from that show is the definition and understanding of what a grandmaster is. And what a grandmaster is someone who is so obsessed in their own craft that they live, breathe, dream, they do everything around it. And reading books, and I'm just like thinking, oh my God, if I read that book, I would probably be asleep in minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But for her, that's her craft. And all of us have that.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we are just obsessed about. And if we just obsess about it just a little bit more every single day, just a little bit more every single day,
yeah,
what kind of a master we would be able to reach in that craft.
absolutely. It's like that 10,000 hours theory.
Yeah.
Is that a Michael Lewis book? Oh, trying to figure out who wrote it, but yeah, that 10,000 hours. Like if you devote 10,000 hours to anything, you'll become an expert at it.
Yeah. Well, I think the expert is the beginning stage of it, though. And then there's the master, and then there's the grandmaster, because she's been playing this chess game since she was 9 years old. And I think she was in her 20s by the time she became a grandmaster. And it's like, well, what did you do after? You just become even better.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's a Malcolm Gladwell reference. But yeah, it takes 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
But it really has to be the right. It takes 10,000 hours, but it really has to be the right 10,000 hours.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because this is something that is talked about quite a bit on social media, especially in network marketing. Because everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon and think they're going to get rich right away, and they don't realize that whatever it is that they want to do, you need to put in 10,000 hours. But it's not, it's like the word passive comes to mind, that it's not 10,000 passive hours where you're trying to master your craft and you're doing something here, you're doing something here, and you're just passively listening or passively doing something. You got to be having those blinders on and be focused on that craft that you want to master. And that's how you become a grandmaster.
Yeah, fully engaged.
Yeah.
10,000 hours have to have your full engagement. And if it is what you want to be doing, you will be fully engaged.
Mhm.
Like how we were get in with IPEC, like going through IPEC, that had my full engagement. Like there was nothing else in the world that I thought I should be doing. Like it felt like the rest of the world around me was crumbling because it was very hard for people around me to understand the decisions I was making at the time, like leaving a Fortune 500 company and taking this leap of faith. But there was nothing else in the world that would interest me to that point where it would command my full engagement and attention. Like I just knew I had to be doing it.
Mhm. And that's the beauty of inner growth and development. Because once we, like, to me, I'm going to ask myself a question. Why not? What am I trying to become a grandmaster of in my life? And that the answer to that is living authentically,
Mm-hmm.
feeling free, and achieving more, which all starts from the inner self,
Mm-hmm.
energy, right? And that's what I want. And that's what I want for anyone that wants it.
Which not everybody does, which is something we all learn, that not everybody wants to live authentically. Not everybody wants to live for free. So when we have all these tools,
Yeah.
I'm like, here, don't you want this? Some people don't, and that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have some really people that are really close to me that don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Does it bother me? Not anymore.
Yes.
It
Yes.
used to.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I have this medicine. I know it can help you because it can help anyone. But if you don't want it, that's your choice.
Yeah.
You will find your own medicine in your own time. Maybe this is not the right time for you, right? And I've never pushed anything on anyone because the last thing I want is to be then blamed for it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And I'd like to ask you the same question I ask myself. What are you trying to become the grandmaster of in your life?
Presence. Being presence. Bringing presence and mindfulness to everything I do, whether it's washing dishes, cooking dinner, holding space on Zoom. I aspire to be the grandmaster of holding presence, holding space with presence, my full presence with that unconditional love, and yeah, being presence.
Yeah. And that is one of the keys that so many people are missing in their life because like how many of us don't feel present in our life in any given moment in time?
Yeah, I think most people, like we usually have some story playing in our heads that detracts from whatever moment we're in. And I mean, presence is just so wonderful because when we're present, we realize that pretty much most of the moments in our lives are not stressful. They're quite beautiful, and we have everything we need. And when we're not present, we can lose sight of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just like when Chris and I didn't have water for 3 days. Not once we had water back, I was doing the dishes like with this euphoria. I was like, praise John, the water's back. I was like, water, I will never take you for granted again. And it's just like that kind of enthusiasm for the moments, like little moments that we normally would take for granted or not even be aware because the mind is so busy with brain chatter. and things like we think we should be doing. Um, do you remember last summer when my mom injured herself and we kind of talked with her about it? She was really resistant. I've talked with her about it many times because we remember that when she was going down the stairs and she missed this step, she was not in her body. She was not focusing on going down the stairs. She was thinking about the things she needs to do to help out my grandma for the day. So, and this is when you're like what you said just about using the imagination. You're like, well, that's great that you have so much worry because that means you have a great imagination. That changed my life and I use that now all the time. But that's, she calls it planning. Like she thinks in her head she's planning. However, she missed a step in that state of not being present, and in her body she missed a step, and therefore all the plans that she thought she was trying to control in the now, trying to control the future in the now, were completely changed because she couldn't use her leg. So like that's just one example of how being present, being one mind, body, spirit in every moment can just help. It just simplifies things. Like first I'll go down this step, then I'll go down the next step.
Yeah.
And it helps with having trust that like when we bring our presence to any given moment, then we can become more comfortable trusting ourselves that we have and always have had everything we need within to navigate any given moment and anything that arises.
Mm-hmm. I can understand a little bit more as to why you want to master being present in every given moment and help others to do the same, because you've had that experience in your life of your mom, among many others, right? This is like a daily experience that so many people live with, but having your mom go through what she went through, and then understanding that she was just living in the future, that she was her body was here walking down the stairs, but she was not there.
Right.
She abandoned ship.
Exactly. And then the ship tank.
Exactly. We abandoned ship and we know it's going to end up in the rocks.
Exactly. It may not be as immediate as that moment with my mom, but it'll at some point end up on the rocks.
Yeah.
I mean, like how many of us have had experiences in the shower where we wash our hair and then we go and pick up the shampoo again and then aren't sure if we already did it or not. Like it's things like that presence can really shift.
Or put soap on the toothpaste.
Yeah, exactly. Like just like not there. And I think one of the reasons it's become so important in my life is from incorporating ceremony. And years ago, just starting my day with ceremony and realizing how much presence, like when we sit in ceremony, like for example, I decided to make my cacao before this Zoom so that I would be in it, just like is my portal to ceremony, and then so that I could be fully present and here with you, because that's how sacred I find these. Like, I don't know what we're doing, but it's something, and it's like it fuels me, and so I want to be fully present. And so just incorporating ceremony and that intention, setting intentions when I drink my cacao, that has had such an impact on me that now in any given moment, I realize that just by shifting my perception, I can make it as sacred and ceremonial as having cacao. Like again, I keep using doing the dishes as a reference, but doing the dishes for me has become very ceremonial, and just like the appreciation I have for our basic necessities, just enjoying our basic necessities has become ceremonial.
When there's more dishes to wash from the kids, it gets a little bit harder. I showed you my kitchen. I said, no, I'm not doing that right now. I'll do it later when they come home and they can help a little bit.
Yes.
Um, right? They can learn. But what I like that you said is that I don't know what we're doing, but I want to be present.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me thinking that most people want to know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what they're going to get out of it,
Mm-hmm.
which takes them out of the present moment, which basically they start creating plans or figuring out why they're doing what they're doing. But instead, why not just let it flow? Let it let whatever is going to come into your life, my life, anyone's life that's watching, let it come out when it's supposed to on its own without trying to force it.
Yes.
And just be in the moment. Today I feel like I'm gonna have my coffee, right? And I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna have my coffee. I don't know what we're gonna talk about. We don't plan these things.
And even sometimes we do, like, even if we have topics in mind, sometimes the moment dictates and calls for something else, and we surrender to the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We detach from any plan that we thought we had, or agenda we thought we had. And I think that becoming coaches has really helped empower us with that detachment, because as coaches we have no attachment to our clients' agenda other than honoring it and understanding it's their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't attach. We have no agenda. If we were to attach, then we would be coming from a place of agenda. So yeah. I think that even like as you were talking about network marketing and getting started and wanting to make money right away, that could be coming from a place of attachment to an outcome. And energetically, the potential clients would feel that attachment and just back away. And so presence also helps with that. Just if any, I know you're still active in your network marketing circle. So if anyone from there is listening, that detachment can go so far, and just, and presence and understanding, like, if we're really here to serve, which I do believe network marketing is, and if we're really here to serve the people who are attracted to us, then we remain present and detached from any outcome.
The best way I can explain that is, for network marketers that are watching and listening out there, is stop looking at people as a dollar sign. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that is the biggest attachment. The conversation I'm about to have with you, what am I going to get out of it? What are you going to buy? How much am I going to make off of you? That's the conversation that so many network marketers have in their mind. But taking that off the table and just looking at the person that's in front and getting to know that person in all the ways that you want to get to know them, putting your business aside, forget that this is a business.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yes, it is, but put that aside. Forget about it. Look at the person. Who are they? What do they want? Understand them before you start to sell them. Mm-hmm. Right? Your stuff might not be for them at all. And that's fine. Guess what? In the end, you can gain an incredible friend. I was in my beginning stage of network marketing when I met you. I didn't look at you as a dollar sign. We connected on a much deeper level, and I've never, ever sold you. You know what I do. You know the products that I offer. For the most part, you want it, they're there. Mm-hmm. Right? But when you try to sell someone, it's almost like they get nauseated and disgusted by you, and they want nothing to do with you. And then that is how bridges can be burned.
Yeah. Honestly, had you tried to sell me, I would have thought that in order to have your friendship, I would need to purchase your products. And so I'm super appreciative because your friendship has been so important to me during my whole journey. And that's like we started meeting on Zoom, and that's what net in most of the network marketing companies I explored, that's we were doing exactly what they say to do, like get close in Facebook and get to know each other through chat, meet on Zoom, and we were doing all that. We never talked about the products, we never talked about the company, we just talked about empath stuff and our dreams and clairvoyance, and it was so important to me, and I'm so grateful you never tried to sell your products, because then I would have been like, oh, that, like, she doesn't actually want my friendship. And we would have lost out on years of this closeness.
Yeah. And I would say the same thing for you, because as a coach, you didn't try to sell me yourself, your services, or anything. It was just one of those natural things that for me, when it came time to find a coach and what do I want to do, I could not think of anyone else better than you, because we've had conversations and I understood you and you understood me. And I didn't necessarily want to start a relationship with someone brand new, because I've always been about authenticity. And when I think my dishes, there's like a lot of dishes there and they're starting to slide. Oops. The kitchen can't wait. But when the relationship is just in the beginning stages, a lot of people, they are very fearful of being themselves and they hold a lot of themselves back. Whereas I'm not like that. And some people don't understand it and they think the opposite of me, of who I am. I shared with you, remember, like one of these instances where I had with one of my friends telling me that I need to be more transparent and that I was like a fake and I wasn't speaking my truth. And I was so upset because that's all I ever do. I say what I want to say. I say what's on my mind. Yes, in the nicest way possible, because that's how I also think. But I don't hold things back.
Yeah.
The things that I do hold back are not meant worth saying or worth mentioning, because they are about me, and that stuff can be let go and there's no point of it.
Yeah. Like you can trust that you're working through it internally and there's no need to project it. Like you're so aware of energy and how, and I'm sure if you really needed someone, you needed help working through stuff, you'd reach out. But if you know that you have the tools to work through it, yeah, of course, like it's totally appropriate to transmute it internally. Mm-hmm. It's, as you were saying that, it's so interesting. Like when we know ourselves so well and we know who we are, when people make those kinds of projections, like, oh, you're not being transparent, we can see, oh, it's so painful because we can see that they're talking to themselves, they're talking in the mirror. And whatever it is that they're identifying in us, that we know it's not us, because we know ourselves so well. Like, no, I know you're not talking to me, so who are you really talking to?
Yeah, that was the actual case, because that individual is not authentic, and that individual is the one that has been playing games, so to speak, accusing me of playing games. And I kept thinking, I don't play games. I mean, not even video games I wasn't playing at that time. I don't play any kind of games. What do you mean games? I just show up as my most authentic self. I speak my truth. I say what's on my heart or in my heart. And that's it. Yeah. If you can accept it, then that means that whoever I am and how I'm showing up is affecting you and making you question yourself, and you are just reversing it and blaming me for your own discomfort.
Exactly. And typically that happens when people haven't met themselves deeply enough to understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
So if we're coming from unconditional love and they haven't met and discovered unconditional love for themselves, they're going to reject it and think that, who knows, whatever their perception is. And that's why I remember when someone who, this actually happens to me every once in a while with friends, is that it gets to a point where I'm supposed to take sides. In someone's head, I'm supposed to choose sides. And I am literally trained in holding objective space for everyone. So I don't take sides. I see where every single person's coming from. And I remember when someone called me two-sided because I heard her stories over the course of however many months about a certain group of women. And then I was also helping, I was volunteering, as in the cannabis community, so much drama. But I was volunteering with that group of women she had been talking about. And she then accused me of being two-sided. And I think what she was really afraid of was that, like, piecing together things she has said, like she'd be like, oh, did so-and-so talk about me? And I'd be like, no, like, no one's talking about you. But then I realized, so that paranoia she must have had in her brain, oh, Rachel must be talking about me to them because I share so much. So I think she got uncomfortable with how much she shared and then projected on it to me and started calling me names. And I realized, that there's no point in explaining how I see the world. There's no point in explaining just because I hold space for you doesn't mean I can't hold space for the people you don't like. Everybody deserves to be heard and acknowledged where they're at and validated for having the feelings that they're having. So just taking that step back, and like it obviously hurt at first. It always hurts when someone rejects who we are being, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But then once you realize, like, okay, this person's speaking to the mirror, to themselves in the mirror, and I'm hearing paranoia, and just all these other types of thought patterns that are a struggle. Like, it must be such a struggle to live with, and like just this own imprisonment of, well, because you're an iPad coach, level 2 energy, like I'm right, they're wrong, it's me versus them. It sounds so lonely. But what I realized once it started turning on me, this particular person I'm thinking of uses intimidation to keep people on her side. And so once she saw that I wasn't choosing sides, and then she turned the intimidation and abuse on me, I was able to say, like, set a boundary with the compassion that I'm willing to dish out and offer, and realize that it is purely about her, and she can get the help she needs, and it doesn't need to be from me. So and to still have compassion, like, what I have found is that the person doing the judging, the person judging the other, is struggling a lot more than the person being judged. So anytime I've been judged or been the subject of unfair judgment, I remember that if they're judging me, then they're going through a struggle that's much more difficult and lonely than being the subject of their judgment.
Yeah. And that struggle almost sounds like, because who you are and who I am, we know who we are. We understand who we are. We've gone through the healing and the work from within, as core energy coaches, and having gone through core energy program like the law of being, we have come out on the other side, that have gone through this incredible program, understanding who we are. And most people haven't. And the biggest struggle that so many are facing is honestly not knowing who they are. Because how can they be authentically themselves if they don't even know who themselves is?
Yeah.
And that is the biggest struggle. Because, example, with this individual, watching a lot of shows, dramatic shows, on Netflix or on TV, doesn't matter where, watching all these dramatic shows, that becomes the voice inside the head. And then that is being projected on all the other relationships that are real relationships in their life.
Exactly.
Because this is what I watch, this is what I learn, without them even consciously understanding that that's what could potentially be happening. I'm not saying it is. What I'm saying is it could be happening. And then this playing games, when you're watching The Bachelor or Bachelorette, they're all playing games there. I watched it a long time ago. I think a couple of episodes. I was like, oh, too much drama, not doing that. So this individual is watching a lot of that. And it's completely understandable when that would be put on me and I would be a kid playing games.
Oh my gosh. This is making me laugh because the person that I was speaking about was obsessed with keeping up with the Kardashians and like everything the Kardashians were doing. So when I would be speaking with her, I would hear a lot about the Kardashians. And after our relationship ended, our friendship ended, I remember this one day I was like, I have no clue what's going on with the Kardashians. And I'm so happy about that because it becomes part of our feedback loop.
Yeah.
So whatever we eat is like no different than food we eat. It becomes part of our diet. So if something where people are playing psychological games with each other, or there's a lot of drama, that's going to become part of our feedback loop. So then that's going to be what we expect to see out in the world. Like that's what quantum physics tells us. What we create, we see what we expect to see. And so if we're filling our brains with drama and backstabbing and two-sidedness and whatever, we're going to misinterpret the other's intentions.
Yeah. Because we're not really listening to the person that's physically in front of us.
Right.
Based on what they're saying and who they are and what we know about them. What we're doing is, and we're adding that feedback loop from the show that we're continuously watching to this scenario now, and now it gets mixed up and there's a lot of mixed messages and oh my god, is she trying to say this or what is she trying to say? I heard this, so this made sense to me. It's a spider web of information. And I mean, as beautiful as the spider web is, and this scenario is not necessary. You take all the other stuff out and just hear what the person is saying and trying to understand more of who they are. Not based on your other knowledge from drama, TV shows, that people are being paid to be as dramatic as they possibly can.
Yeah. And the producers are being paid to play games so that drama unfolds. It's produced drama. And something that you and I are trained in is helping people challenge interpretations that are causing feelings of paranoia or self-doubt, whatever the interpretations are, because we can hear it. We can hear the story. An interpretation, if we just for anyone's listening, so an interpretation is the story we tell ourselves about any situation. It's really personal. It's usually based on our past and our feedback loops. So so going back to this person who saw me at the cannabis event with a group of people that she would vent about all the time, her interpretation, it was included paranoia, included two-sidedness, whatever it was. Had she had space to challenge that interpretation, she might, like, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what are 2 to 5 other stories for that same situation? And I love that question because first, it puts us in a different part of the brain than to just be like, that person's deliberately against me, they're deliberately hurting me, or they don't like me, or whatever the interpretation we're making. And so that interpretation is on a loop in the emotional right brain where all the trauma is. And when we ask, what are 2 to 5 other stories, we open up space in the brain for curiosity. And once we start an imagination, like once we use it, which is creative, and when we're in that creative space, it's impossible to feel bad. It's impossible to have those feelings because we're using that creative energy. And so other opportunities start coming up. So when we start challenging the interpretation, we can start thinking, well, let's see, I know she has a lot going on, so maybe, choose whatever interpretation we're making. Like, let's say you text someone, they don't text you back, and then the interpretations start running wild, like, oh, they have abandoned me, they are sick of me. And then what are 2 to 5 other stories for that? Oh, maybe they're busy. I know they have stuff going on with their mom or their grandma, or like whatever it is. And then that opens the door for empathy, which is a completely different vibration than paranoia. Like, paranoia is usually levels 1 and 2, and then empathy and compassion are level 4. And so it just puts us in a completely different space. So if anybody struggles, it's so hard. Like, Yana and I can hear interpretations, but it's so hard to hear your own interpretations. It really helps to have someone objective say, I have heard this over and over. This is your story. And therefore, because it's your story, you're recreating it in these situations to prove it to yourself, to prove it. And I've actually found it hurtful when I've been part of someone else's story, because I was like, wow, they set me up to fail. I never stood a chance of getting in their heart, because I was just another pawn in the game that they're playing to prove themselves right, that everybody abandons them. And so, so challenging those interpretations can give us that opportunity to show up in the now without carrying all that past with us, and carrying that whatever fear-based thoughts with us that can wreck relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And kind of back to the who, if they knew more of who they were, they would be approaching every situation, every conflict through a different set of lenses, because they would understand more, they would know who they are and know that this person has nothing to do with them. Mm-hmm. And that at the end of the day, whatever is going on, whatever we're feeling in the inside of ourselves, is ours. And we can't blame anyone else for it. And I have been on my journey to discover more like who I was. And I was on that journey for what I think 2 years, maybe 3 years. Honestly, I think it's a lifelong thing. I'm just gonna put it out there. It's a lifelong thing when we're trying to figure out who we are. And I've taken many courses, many programs, and have talked to many people in hopes that it would help me. And I can honestly say, in having tried and invested in myself time and time and time again, that if I discovered the law of being in the first place, it could have saved me a lot of money.
Yeah,
There goes the dishes again.
I agree.
They agree, right? It would have saved me a lot of time and money, but at the same time, I don't beat myself up for it because I've learned so much having gone through that that I might have not learned if I just found the law of being and nothing else.
Yeah.
And I say
The
that,
journey, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, and I say that because there's people out there that might be thinking, well, I've taken so many programs and I don't want to invest in myself. I don't want to spend more money on another program that might not work, right? Um, you don't know until you try.
Mm.
And I know everyone who has taken the law of being because it comes with the ELI, which the way I explain it, it's like it's something tangible that you get to see. Your energy showing up on a piece of paper, well, digital, that's tangibly saying how you're showing up. And it's almost like a roadmap of where you are right now.
Exactly.
And that's the best way to start with the law of being, that you know where you are. And in order for you to know where you're going, you got to work on yourself and figure out who you are first and who you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then go on that journey.
Exactly. Like one of the most amazing experiences for me in taking the ELI. So I took it for the first time back in 2013, saw my patterns. And something I love about it is that it offers the opportunity to witness ourselves without judgment, because it's just science. It's like, look, this is quantum physics. This is just how you're resonating. It has nothing really to do with you other than the fact that these patterns were programmed into us at a young age, and we've been perpetuating them since. Because we haven't had an opportunity like this to evaluate how is, for me, it was a lot of level 4 concern, compassion for others when I was not under stress, and then under stress, all this level 1. And that's a really common pattern. And just seeing that, like, of course that was my pattern. That's what has been delivered to me as normal for women. And so one of the most amazing experiences was when my mom took the ELI last summer, and she got her results, and I showed her my results from 2013, and she's like, well, they're the same. And I was like, yes, this is what I've been saying, because I understand her. I understand her so well where she is now. She struggles to understand me where I am now because of how I have reduced the stress and expanded the more like joy and peace and those frequencies. And it's just so amazing to see how these patterns, like what I told her, I was like, yes, of course they're the same. I'm your daughter. You raised me to be your daughter, and I complied. And until I realized, exactly. Like, so it's just so great to see, and then we can have compassion for ourselves as we go do this work, and start shedding whatever really is not authentic to us, and they're just patterns from the past that we've been carrying, and of course societal patterns, because it's scary to challenge the status quo. So yeah, it's just, I mean, I've got a call at noon, but now that we've started talking about the ELI, I realized that I could go on forever about this experience and the law of being.
Yeah.
We might have to have another one dedicated to that topic.
I think that would be perfect because I don't know if I've shared this with you or not, but I'm actually, I think this week is the plan to start rolling out my new group coaching program that is going to be called New Year, New Authentic You, starting in January, because everybody wants the new year resolution, right? The new life, the new everything. And I thought this is going to be the best way to help people to start it with me guided through the law of being and the ELI.
Oh, I love that. It'd be so nice to do as a group too, because then you don't feel alone. Like part of expanding consciousness is it can be kind of tricky because the people around you aren't doing the same work. So
Oh, yes.
there could be a lot of cross-level communication. So to do it in a group and have buddies going through it, it can make all the difference.
Oh, it totally can. Because when I went through it by myself with you, and I didn't have anybody else to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like it shifts the whole entire self-perception on the world and the healing and everything that goes through from the inside. It was a little challenging to connect with other people because I started seeing things and patterns in my life that I never did before. Talk about bringing awareness into life. Like, that's like, shake me. Why I got woken up and it's like, oh my God, it makes sense. Where I am, why I've been suffering in silence by myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, those that are ready to give themselves a gift of new self,
Yeah.
we'll probably do the chat, the video next week. We'll talk about the ELI and the law of being.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, you go on your call, and I'll be getting ready for my next call, and I can't wait until next week.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.